Okay, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is David Shucker. I'm with Schmersal USA. I'm going to be kind of hosting this session and going to take care of some of the housekeeping things before we get into our presentation. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type them into the questions box, and hopefully we'll get to some of them during the presentation, and if not, we have some time set aside at the end. If you're having any audio or video issues, feel free to note that in the questions box as well. So let's begin. Today we are doing engineering services, machine safety engineering services with Tec.nicum. Our presenter today is Devin Murray. He is a longtime Schmersal employee. In fact, he's one of our founding members of our Tec.nicum engineering services term and is now the current engineering services manager. He is also a TUV certified functional safety engineer for machine. So Devin, if you want to take it away, and I might interject somewhere down the line if we have any questions that are pertinent.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dave. Again, thank you all for joining us this morning, again, and this afternoon, depending on where you are. Yeah, so as Dave mentioned, I've been with the company since 2008. Background electrical engineering with business administration. I started in application support, received my TUV functional safety engineer certification in 2011, which kind of laid the foundation to help, as Dave mentioned, to get the North American division of Tec.nicum up and running and pretty much to where it is today. Okay, and we wanted to take this time and this opportunity to go into some detail about exactly what we are and what we do within our engineering services. So if you have any questions at all, as Dave mentioned, please feel free to use that question field, and we will answer as much as we can at the end if those questions aren't answered as I go through the presentation. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and then just jump right into this. So if you're on the line, you're probably already familiar with the Schmersal name, and what we are a division of Schmersal. So Tec.nicum is still under the Schmersal umbrella, right? Still part of the Schmersal group, but we're a separate division. And you'll see, the name Tec.nicum, on certain brochures from us and tech briefs, documentations, and you'll see the terminology, powered by Schmersal. Okay. And the main reason that we have that there is because we still want to, let people know that even though the name Tec.nicum may be new to you, we are part of an organization that's been around for well over 75 years. So all of that, industry knowledge and skill set that you may be familiar with already with Schmersal, it's still held intact with this new division of engineering services called Tec.nicum. So there's our vision and mission statement from our engineering services group. I won't read it, it's there. But our goal essentially is to help you provide, that safe working environment. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see exactly how we do that within our 4 pillars. But before we get into the actual Tec.nicum division and what we offer, just a few quick slides again of how we got here, right? So here's a brief history of the Schmersal group, and I just highlighted in bold some key milestones as it relates to us here in North America and to the Tec.nicum division specifically. Right? So again, Schmersal itself was founded in 1945. So again, that well over 75 years, almost 80 years of industry knowledge and skill sets. 1996 is when Schmersal Inc. or the Schmersal North American branch was established. And in 2016 was the official launch of the Tec.nicum division. And I say official because everything that we do within our division, we've been doing since we got into the realm of machine safety. Okay, whether it's training or just guidance. So it was officially founded in 2016 with the name Tec.nicum, but it's everything that we've been doing already, just on a grander stage. Okay, here's a quick map of Schmersal and all of the locations that they exist, and these are the direct Schmersal plants and agencies. Right? So this doesn't account for all of our partnerships with distributors and reps and integrators. This is direct Schmersal agencies and production sites. And the reason I want to bring this up, as far as the Schmersal name, is because again, Tec.nicum is part of Schmersal, right? So Schmersal being a global company, well, so is our Tec.nicum division, right? So we have Tec.nicum engineers all over the world. So we are able to provide support for those companies that are global, and also for local companies here in the States. Real quick, Dave, can I confirm audio? I think I saw a message in the question field about someone not having
audio. I'm getting you loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. If anything pops up, I guess we'll see. But thank you so much for that. So I'll keep moving. So again, because Schmersal is a global company, so is Tec.nicum. And again, we'll get into the services that we offer to see how we can implement that globally, right? When needed. Okay. Last slide, again, that even refers back to Schmersal. But overall, globally, there's just shy of 2,000 direct Schmersal employees. And within that 2,000, there are 80 full-time Tec.nicum safety engineers. So just within our division, 80, okay? Now, as far as, the individuals that can do what we do within our division, there are direct Schmersal employees, right, that may have the TUV functional safety engineer title that we can lean on if we need support. Okay, so we have 80 individuals that are everything Tec.nicum, okay, day in, day out. And then if needed, we can lean on our Schmersal employees to switch hats, right, put on their Tec.nicum hat and assist us when needed. And again, what does that assistance look like? What are we actually doing within there? So now we're gonna go directly into Tec.nicum, right? That's gonna be the last time I mention the name Schmersal, again, because we are a separate division, okay? And the main reason for that, having that separate division, is because when we go to a customer site, if it's for training, okay, or for risk assessments, and we're trying to provide the best possible solution, we want to make sure that that we're not going in there just to push Schmersal products, right? When we do a training, we go in there as Tec.nicum engineers to talk about machine safety, right? We don't go in there to start talking about how great Schmersal products are. When we're doing risk assessments and providing some solutions, some guidance on control measures, we're giving you guidance that you can use throughout the industry. Right? So again, we're not going to say, here, we've done this assessment, and in order to correct this, you need this part number from Schmersal. Right? That's not what we do, which is the main reason we have this separate division, to help make sure that that. Right? So within our Tec.nicum services, everything that we do is based off of one of our 4 pillars. Okay, those pillars are academy, consultancy, engineering, and integration. And what I'm going to do over the next several slides is go over each pillar and explain to you the services that we offer with them. All right. So the first pillar is everything to do with education, which we are big on, whether it's Tec.nicum or even Schmersal. We are big on educating the customer. And if we can help you understand the world of safety, then that means we're doing our job. Then we move on to consultancy, where we get a little more hands-on with the equipment. We're looking at services such as the risk analysis, right? So helping identify those hazards. The next pillar will be engineering. Again, directly working with the machines to do testing or validation for safety functions. And then the last pillar will be integration, where we are helping you do those physical upgrades on your machinery. All right. So again, we're going to take some time to look at each one of these pillars to further explain what we do within our engineering services department. And that first pillar being academy. So what are some of the courses? What are some of the trainings that we offer? The first one I want to point out is the OSHA training. All right, so as you may know, OSHA has this outreach training program for general industry. They offer courses that are 10 hours or 30-hour courses. Following the course, you would get a certificate from OSHA, like a little card stating that you completed the 10 and or 30-hour course. This is something that we are able to offer, all right? And this is the official OSHA program. So if you take it with us, you will still get the official OSHA card as you would have gotten if you'd taken it directly at a OSHA training center. Okay. I mentioned that part, taking it at an official OSHA training center, because that's the only place where OSHA will teach the 10-hour and 30-hour course, right? Whereas Tec.nicum, right, our engineers or our instructors have gone through the OSHA, train the trainer. So they are OSHA authorized trainers to provide the 10-hour and 30-hour course, which is why you would be able to obtain that official OSHA card, right? We are able to go directly to your site to do the training. So instead of having to send employees out to a training center, right, you can have our instructor go to your site to train your employees with a 10-hour and or 30-hour course. Okay, and again, this is the exact training or the authorized training from OSHA that we are able to provide. So both the 10 and 30 hours. Some of the other trainings that we offer, some of the our bread and butter trainings, things that we started the engineering services department with, include the general machine guarding training, which is a full day course. Right? And again, we go in there with our Tec.nicum hat to talk about machine guarding within the industry, and we go over everything. So we look over certain standards and regulations from OSHA, ANSI, NFPA, ISO, IEC. We go through the concepts of our risk assessments. Then we go into the different solutions within the industry as far as different type of components. How do we install the components? What are we looking for to make sure that a component is safe, right? What does a safe circuit actually look like? So everything related to safety as much as we can, right, in one day for this course. Okay. The next one is also another full day course for ISO 13849. So again, some of you may know the standard or at least heard of it before. But this standard is directly related to the safety functions on your machine. So this full day training goes over the theory and the concepts of ISO 13849, and we also go through examples. Right? So we do have some examples that we created for the course. But one thing we do is we pull examples from the class, right? So we say, okay, let's look at a machine that we all may know, right? And let's look at some safety functions, and let's do the calculations together to help drive the training home. So definitely a more hands-on approach than a lot of other standard trainings that I've seen. So something that we offer that's a little more unique. And also, again, just looking at some hands-on for training, we offer a safety circuit and wiring, which is a full day where the attendees are given a trainer board. So essentially a safety controller, some contactors, some push buttons, and some LEDs to turn on that would simulate a machine turning on. And we go over the different concepts of categories, safety circuits. What does a reliable safety circuit look like? What does a redundant circuit look like? And then we throw in faults and errors into the circuits to show you exactly what you're gaining going from a single channel circuit to a redundant circuit with monitoring. And so there's one thing to talk about it. It's one thing to even see a schematic, and there's another thing to actually wire it up, right? So this is more geared towards electrical technicians and maintenance personnel, controls engineers that have an understanding of circuits, and then we go further to say, okay, here are safety circuits. This is what a safety circuit actually looks like. This is what you're gaining, and we go over some things that are common within the industry that aren't really safe, right? Some misconceptions, and then we go over to things that actually make a machine safe. Right? So again, the full day course, completely hands-on. For that one is like 20-minute, 30-minute presentation to help explain further some safety circuits, and everything else is wiring, going over examples. Okay. Moving on, the risk assessment training. Now we're going into something that is a 2-day course. All right. This is 2 days because, again, we go over the theory of the risk assessment, the actual process. We look at the different types of assessments, which could be an overall machine assessment as well as a task-based assessment, what those differences are. Look at the different guidance from the different standards that are available to help us do a risk assessment. And then we also help you create a risk assessment template that you can use internally. All right. Now, this is more geared for us to do the training at one specific customer site. And so we go to your site, we do the training, we help you develop a questionnaire, or a checklist to do the actual risk assessment training. I'm actually the actual risk assessment. And then we go on the floor with you. So we break you up into groups, maybe five, 7 or so individuals in the group. And then we actually do a risk assessment walkthrough with the template that we just help you create. So at the end of the training, you've got the material, you got the training on how to do the assessment, but then you also have an actual template that you can use moving forward. Okay, so again, this is more in depth because we're helping you create that checklist. We have a lot of conversations, try to understand the machines that you have, that you're exposed to. But at the end of the day, again, you have this template that you can use moving forward. Okay. For those of you on the line that are involved with CE, so sending machines over to Europe, or you have customers that require the CE on your machines that you're creating, maybe we also provide training on that. And this one is a week-long course. And the reason why this one is a week-long course because you're actually getting two things out of this. You're getting the training, so everything you need to know about the process for the CE mark. And at the same time, as you're going through the training, we're actually doing this on one of your machines. So you're kind of getting the machine ready to have that self-declarations for CE. So you're getting the training, and you're also pretty much getting the machine ready for the CE declaration. But it's a week-long course, and if you have been exposed to the CE declaration, you may already know that it is very involved, very detailed. So we go through that with you again, which is why it's a week-long course. Right? This one here, the last one I want to talk about, that's grayed out because it's in development, something that we've been working on. Hope to have it launched soon, especially if there's a lot of traction, which there have been, which is why we created it. But it's for the collaborative robots, right? And as you know, there's been a lot of traction with collaborative robots within the industry. A lot of progress with standards and regulations. So it just makes sense for us to have a training on that to help again educate the customers on what it means to have a collaborative robot, what things you need to look for to make sure that it is a safe application. So we go over, or we will go over the overview, the safety requirements that are necessary for your cobot to make sure that it's safe. Okay, so that one is in the process of being developed. We have started the development of it, and as soon as it's finished, we will have a broadcast saying we have this training available, and we will start promoting it. Okay, with all the training that I listed, we can customize it. So if we look at the general machine guarding training, where we go over general industry safety. If you say, okay, well, we only have these types of machines here, can we tailor it to just focus on these type of machines? So maybe it's a type C standard that you want to focus on, for example. Well, we can do that. Okay? Or if it's something that wasn't listed and you want to have some training on it, if it's safety related, within our wheelhouse, we can do that as well. All right. We provided custom training for customers that wanted a better understanding on safety circuits, right? Just what that is, a basic level on how to read safety schematics. Okay, and again, that's within our wheelhouse, so we provided that to them. Right? And it wasn't to make them control engineers; it was to help them understand safety circuits, so they know what questions to ask, right? To have that discussion with their OEMs or have a discussion with their maintenance department. So they know what questions to ask and how to make sure that they are getting that machine safe. All right. Everything that we've offered, or everything that I listed, right, we can do in person, or because of the past 2 years, right, we've seen the need for this. We do offer it live online. All right. So we have modified the material for the online session. As you know, it's different, right? Nothing beats being in person for training. When you go online, you do have to modify your material. So, it's not death by PowerPoint online, right? It's not death by PowerPoint in person either, but online is different, right? So we've had modified our trainings to offer it a little differently online when it's live. But again, that's something that we can offer. For all the trainings, also the custom training. Right. The last thing within this pillar I want to mention real quick is the online academy. So we've been creating this Tec.nicum online academy for some self-paced courses. It has not been launched yet. The site is up and running. So if you happen to find yourself on that site, definitely poke around, take a look at it. If you want to sign up for it, you can sign up for it, but it has not officially been launched yet. But there is content on there to poke around to see what's available. But essentially, it's going to be videos, pre-recorded webinars and videos, podcasts, forums, educational forums for machine safety, everything related to industrial safety. So now we're going, yes, we're going to focus on some machine safety, but then we also look at everything else related to it. So PPE, arc flash, fall trips and slip trips and falls, right? So everything related to industrial safety can be found here on the Tec.nicum Online Academy, which will officially be launched next month. Okay. So that's
okay, Devin. Before you,
yes,
yeah, Devin, before you move on, I do have a couple of questions that are waiting here. First is, where are the courses located at, and is there a calendar or schedule available?
Perfect. That's a pretty good question, actually. So, right now, all of our courses are, at the site, at the customer site or online. We have spoke about, starting again that, regional training. So whether it's, at a specific region, at a conference room in a hotel with an open invitation, and or an open invitation for some live online training. So that is something that we've done in the past. Again, the past 2 years, like everyone else, and it kind of threw a wrench into things. But we have spoke about opening that back up for regional trainings. So that's something that we have offered and we will offer again. Right now, we don't have a calendar available, but once we start, moving that process along, we will have it available and it will be directly on our website.
Okay. Does any of the training relate to RIA 1506? Robotics?
Yes, it does. So with our general machine guarding training, we do reference some other industrial standards such as ISO 10218 or RI 1508 or RI 1506. So there's that. But then again, if there's any standard that specifically you want to look into for training, we can do that, right? So 1506, if I'm not mistaken, is for risk assessments, right? So we do, again, reference that when we go over the risk assessment training, but it's not specifically on that itself. But we can,
Okay.
if that's something that you may need.
And one final question that we get asked a lot in regards to training. Do we offer any certification or continuing education credits or anything like that for taking the machine safety courses?
Again, good question. So there are actually 2 projects that we are working on in-house. One is related to certification. So we are, in conversations and talks on, what did that look like as far as, a certification to make sure that, it's something that's going to be, relevant throughout the industry if you're going to get that certification from us, right? The other one is the continued education credits. So we are in the process of going through this, this rigorous application to get our trainings approved for continuous educational credits. Hope to have that soon. Again, I mean, as you would, if you haven't gone through that process, it's a lot, and it should be a lot, right? If we're going to say that our courses are have this level of information, and that we can give you credits to help maintain your professional certification, then it should go through this rigorous procedure. So we're in the process of that, and we hope to have that for you soon.
Okay, thank you, Evan. I think that's it for now. You want to start?
Perfect. Actually, that works out pretty good. Perfect. All right. So the next pillar will be consultancy. And again, now we're getting away from training and getting directly more hands-on with the actual equipment that you may have. All right. So the first thing I want to bring up within this pillar is the risk assessment. All right. So we are able to provide the risk analysis, which again can be the overall analysis of the machine and its environment, and or a task-based analysis where, as you would imagine, goes into way more detail, where we go over all the different tasks that are associated with that machine, identify all the hazards and risks associated with each and every one of those tasks. Okay, it is important to note that these two analyses, the overall and task-based, they go hand in hand. Okay. Now, most cases, we're called out to do the analysis, and the task base is done internally, which is perfectly fine. But it's important to note that they go hand in hand, and you should be doing both. Okay. As far as the analysis, we base it off of ISO 12100 because we are a global company. So that's our foundation, ISO 12100. But we do look at the North American requirements for machinery, right? So even though we're looking at ISO 12100 as a baseline, our engineers are knowledgeable of all of the ANSI and NFPA requirements as it relates to machine safety. Okay. If we're getting into robots, robot cells, or collaborative robots, we then tailor our risk assessment based off of ISO TS 15066 and ANSI RA 1506 for collaborative robots. Okay. Also, if you have a specific type of machine and that has its own standard, so just like a robot or a robot cell has their own standard with ISO 10218, or a cobot has its own standard with 15066. You may have a machine that has its own type C standard, a mill, right, a CNC lathe. And if you want that assessment done based specifically off of that standard, we can do that as well. Okay, so our software with our knowledge of standards allows us to easily modify our checklist to look at a machine to point out hazards and provide control measures as called out by that type C standard as a bare minimum, and then we provide some additional guidance as needed for those hazards that are outside of the scope from that type C standard. Okay, this assessment that we do, by default, we do a full schematic review. So electrical, hydraulic, pneumatics, everything related to safety, that is not another added fee. That's not another service. That is part of our analysis when we go and look at your machines. We also provide recommendations. And again, because we are a separate division, our recommendations are, generic. And so we don't say add a Schmersal light curtain, here's a part number. But we may say you may want to look into, some non-separating guarding, such as a light curtain or a laser scanner. Now, of course, we can provide that bill of material, which we have done upon request, because we are part of the Schmersal group, so we can easily provide a bill of material as needed. But that's not something that we lead with, because again, we want to make sure that that we're going in there as a manufacturer neutral engineer. Okay, we also not only identify the hazards, but we also quantify the hazards that we identified, and we give it this HRN, or the hazard rated number, so that you can then prioritize those hazards on the machine, and then you can do with those as you see fit. Okay, here's an example of the report and in HRN. So again, what we have with our software is pretty much a checklist that we've created, and we go through the machine, going through these questions, which about a little under 100 or so questions per machine. For anything that we find that's not compliant, we flag it. We give it an HRN, again, a hazard rating number, based off some parameters. We provide a recommendation, again, a general recommendation, and then provide you what the new HRN would be, right, if you were to apply some of these control measures. Whenever there's a picture that should be attached to that hazard that we found. So if it's a exposed rotating element, we'll take a picture, we attach it to the report. For those customers that are looking into ISO 13849, we also provide you what a performance level should be if you were to apply a safety function to this machine. And so if you say, okay, let's add on this guard door interlock because we have a guard door that's not being monitored, we will say, okay, based off observation, based off this analysis, your safety function should be performance level D. Okay, again, just providing as much guidance as we can. And then also at the end of the assessment, part of the deliverable would be a full extracted data from our software inside of an Excel form so that you can easily sort out all the hazards and findings. So if you say, okay, we just did 10 machines and you want to identify those hazards that are ranked very high, right? So you can easily sort that out. Or you can say, okay, let's look at all the hazards that are low, kind of low hanging fruit, things that we can tackle immediately. Then again, you can sort that out and address it as that. Yeah. Within consultancy, we have this service called OSHA violation remediation support, which is pretty much us helping you deal with OSHA inspectors. Right? So if you get cited by an OSHA inspector, we can help you understand exactly what the issue was and the best way to go about correcting that issue. Okay, so if it's on one machine, while we're in there helping you, correct this one machine, since we are on site, we can also do a quick walk around with you to make sure that the inspector doesn't come back and ding you on something else. Right? But again, because we have this industry knowledge of OSHA, NFPA, and ANSI, we are able to assist, in these North American requirements and help make sure that you are fulfilling your due diligence to the general duty clause from OSHA. Okay. Again, going back to ISO 13849. So again, another service that we offer that's related directly to this standard. For those customers that are either building machines and your customer wants to have them meet ISO 13849, or if you're an end user who want your machine to meet ISO 13849, we can help with those conversations and the calculations. Right? So we use Systema. Again, if you're familiar with the standard, you may be familiar with that software. We use Systema to do the calculations for their safety functions to help make sure they are where they need to be. Okay. Now, with us, right, not only do we do the calculations, but if the calculations aren't where they need to be, we just don't document that, right? We actually help you out, right? So if your assessment says you need to be a performance level D and the calculations are coming out performance level B or C, we provide that guidance to help you get to where you need to be. Right? So it's all about, again, support, as much support as we can give you to help make sure your machine, your site is safe. Okay. Within this pillar, we also offer the service for creating a safety standard. Right. So if you're in an organization that does not have a true safety standard in place, we have done this before with customers, and this is something that we offer. Right? And this can be locally. Again, if you're a national company or a mom and pop shop, or if you are a global company. Right? And what we do is have these in-depth conversations, discussions with you, because we have to understand, the type of machines you have. We need to understand, what your vision is, and then we provide all of the guidance for the safety aspect of it. So within this document, you would have guidance on whatever standards you're trying to follow, right? So if it's ISO 12100, 13849, if it's a Type C standard, right? If you want to follow RA 1506 for the assessments, we tailor this so that it meets your requirements, right? Some things you see on this slide would be schematics. So, again, once we have that discussion and you say, okay, as a bare minimum for all the machines within our company, we want, bare minimum category 3 circuit, right? So within that document that you're now going to implement, we'll throw in examples of what a category 3 circuit looks like, right? What type of components within the industry can you apply to meet this cat 3 circuit? How do we actually wire that up? So full-blown safety document tailored directly to your needs. Okay. The last thing within the consultancy pillar would be CE. So not only do we offer the training for CE, but we help you along that entire process to make sure you get the CE declaration for your machine. Okay. And I say we help you because the CE is a self declaration. Right? So we help provide all the guidance needed so that you can do that self-declaration. We are able to offer services to hold that technical file in Europe. So, for those of you who are, not too familiar with the CE process, if you are shipping a machine over to Europe with the CE declaration, one of the requirements is that you have to have all of the machine information held locally within Europe. Okay, so if you don't have a partnership in Europe to hold your machine documentation, we can do that for you. And also we provide the EMC testing for those machines that require EMC testing. Right? So if you find trying to fulfill the EMC directive. Okay. Before we move on to the next pillar, I will stop and see if there's any questions based off of those services within consultancy.
Devin, I don't see any questions at the moment, so let's move on.
Okay, perfect. So the engineering pillar, again, looking at some more hands-on activities with the machine. First thing we're going to look at, going back to ISO 13849. So if this is your first time hearing about the standard, kind of some flags for you, right? What is this standard? Right. So again, we offer training on that. So ISO 13849, part of the requirements is validating your safety circuit. Okay, so you go through the assessment, you identify the hazards, suggest a control measure, design it, order the parts, wire it up. You also have to then validate. And to validate, you have to physically introduce faults to the system. All right. So you have a 2-channel system, and that 2-channel system has been designed to withstand the failure of one channel. Well, then you physically introduce a fault to one channel. Right? So what's a fault? So you go to the control panel and you remove the wire from channel 1. Okay, and see the reaction. So that's how you do the validation. So what we do is we go through the entire schematics of the machine, look at the safety functions, determine what they need to be, determine what faults need to be introduced. We create a checklist. We then provide you that checklist, or we can go on site to actually perform the validation that we created the checklist for. Okay, but again, if you follow an ISO 13849, that is a requirement. For anyone installing devices that do not provide a physical barrier, so you're looking at light curtains, laser scanners, safety mats, 2-hand controls, they don't provide a physical barrier. So there's nothing that's going to stop someone from reaching past a light curtain or walking on a safety mat to reach the hazard. So you have to make sure that you are installing these devices at a safe minimum distance. And in order to do the calculations for a safe minimum distance, you must do a machine stop time analysis. So that is something that we offer. And so we go on site, we use our micro SDM tool to do a full time stop analysis on the machine to determine how long it takes to reach the safe condition, and then we can provide the calculations to help you, install or reposition that safety device to make sure that you're meeting these requirements. Okay, this is something that has to be done, right? A safe minimum distance has to be done on the primary safety functions, the light curtains that are being installed, but it's something that is overlooked very often. Okay, but again, that goes back to education, being able to educate you on exactly what are some of these requirements. For cobots, all right, so for those that are involved with collaborative robots and you're looking at some pressure and force limitations, we can provide this service. Right? So there are several different ways to safeguard a collaborative robot, and to get one of the ways to get that true collaborative application where you have the cobot and an operator, working side by side. One thing you want to look into is, or one thing to look into is having the right pressure and force limitation set. So what we are able to do is, again, go on site, have a discussion, look at the entire application for the cobot, and determine, based off our measuring kits, different pressure and forces. Right? We then compare that to the thresholds that are called out by ISO TS 15066 and or RA 15806, depending on what standard you like us to use, to help make sure that those pressure and forces are not exceeding the thresholds. And so we look into the standard. You have certain pressure and forces that are tolerated for the chest area, the forearm area, the back. So we do different tests on our kit to make sure that you're not exceeding those pressures based off your application. Okay, so as you would imagine, very detailed, very in-depth, but something again that's overlooked that you may be needing for your cobot application. Okay. This is the only thing that really ties us back to Schmersal, right? So within all of our engineering services, this will be the only thing that ties us back to a Schmersal product. So for safety PLC programming, or our PLC one, we do provide guidance on this. So whether it's training, so in-depth training, or actually programming the safety controller, this is something that we offer, but as you would imagine, it would have to be our safety controller, right? The Schmersal safety controller, PSC one. But a service that we offer. Lastly, we offer the schematic review. So if you go into our training, right, and you say, okay, we're gonna go back to the site and start upgrading some of these schematic or some of these safety circuits, or you go into our our safety circuit program, or we just completed a risk assessment for you, whatever the case may be, right? And you are upgrading schematics, or you have a new machine coming in, you have the conversation with the OEM, and you want to make sure that what you're getting is what you need, or you're upgrading to what you need it to be. We can provide assistance with that. So we will look over the schematics, help guide you. We can create the schematics for you if needed. But the overall schematic review is something that we offer. Again, help make sure you are getting or you are designing exactly what you need for that safety circuit. Okay. One more pillar, but again, let me stop.
Okay. Devin, before we move on, I do have a couple questions. Is there a document required that the stop time meets the risk assessment evaluation?
Is there a document required that the stop time meets the risk assessment evaluation? So when you look inside any documentation from a manufacturer, right, it will tell you that you need a stop time analysis. When you look into ANSI requirements, ISO requirements, they'll tell you that you have to do a stop time analysis. So when you do your risk assessment, right, and you get to those components that do not provide that physical barrier, such as the scanner or safety mat, That should be a question that pops up. How we install this at the right distance? Has a stop time analysis been done? All right, so that should be, the flag or that initial documentation requirement, and then you go through the actual process of a stop time analysis. Obviously, document that, and then that becomes part of your machine documentation. And that's whether you're an end user or an OEM. So as far as the documentation, stating that those requirements, yes, I mean those are within, again, ISO and ANSI requirements and inside manufacturer's documentation. But let me know if that answers the question or if I need any further with that.
Okay. One other question. Some of these items like stop time analysis and validation checks, are these one-time things that need to be done like when the machine is first brought online, or is this something that has to be repeated throughout the lifetime of the machine?
Okay, perfect. So it depends on what service we're looking at. So we're looking at validation, right? So validation is just testing the safety functions of that machine that you are installing or updating. So validation is a one-time thing, right? So as long as you're not updating that safety circuit again. When you get into a time stop analysis, for example, then that's not a one and done, because as you would imagine, over time with like anything, there's wear and tear on that machine, belts, motors, whatever, what have you, that may increase that stopping time. So that's something that you have to take into consideration, and you may have to do another time stop analysis within several years, right? So it depends on the service, whether it's a one and done thing or something that you have to revisit later on based off machine usage.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, perfect. Good questions. All right, last pillar will be integration, which is a pretty quick pillar. Pretty quick pillar. So again, going through the process of what we offer, right? So the training, looking at the risk assessment, and looking at the different measurements. Then it gets into, okay, let's actually start doing some upgrades. Right? So let's start providing these control measures. So there's two ways that we can assist you with that. Okay, so if you have the resources in-house and you just need some guidance on the safety aspect of it, or if you have an integrator that you use locally, okay, but you need or they need some guidance on safety, well, we can step in, right, and we can provide that guidance. So we ensure that whatever safety control measures are being implemented, they are addressing what's been called out with the risk assessment, and that it's meeting all necessary requirements, whether we're looking at ISO standards, of course, any NFPA requirements, ANSI requirements, we are providing that guidance on it. Right? If you don't have any resources, you don't have any integrators that you use or would want to use for such a safety task, then again we can assist you because we have partnerships with integrators throughout the country, so that when we go to a location anywhere throughout the country, in order to help keep costs down, right, for such a project for integration, we have those relationships with local integrators, right, where again we are making sure that whatever is being implemented, one, addresses anything that's been called out by the risk assessment, and two, meets any safety requirements as called out by any safety standard that we are following. Okay, so pretty much everything related to machine safety. And again, this is an hour trying to capture everything that we do. Some things I can definitely go into way more detail, but again, just trying to give you an overview of everything that we offer. And again, we started out Tec.nicum engineering services with training. That was our first thing we wanted to do, right? Make sure that we are educating the customer And that's always been our number one goal. Right? Even when we go to do a risk assessment and we were in there, we're looking at machines, we are still providing as much information as we can to you, right, to help you identify some of these hazards. While we're on site, there's questions that may come up about certain schematics, right? Or, well, how do we actually fix what you're finding, right? We can go into detail with you with that too, right? We're real big on, again, educating the customer. So again, the academy side, consultancy, the engineering, going over some of those testing with the validation, time step analysis, PFLs, and again, integration. So essentially, can be your one-stop shop for everything related to machine safety. Okay. With that, we do have 3 minutes left. So give us some time to see if any other questions came in specifically for the pillars or anything at all.
Yeah, we don't have any questions at the moment, but if you have questions out there, please feel free to type them in now. I want to thank Devin for your time. You were very informative. Definitely want to thank all of you for attending. If you want, there are some handouts that you can download in the dashboard. We have our Tec.nicum services brochure, which will go over most of the material that we covered here earlier. And then we have a couple of one-page flyers for all the training services you heard earlier and for most of the engineering services. So if you want to download those are available. And when you log out, there will be a survey if you would be so kind as to answer a couple of really quick questions. So again, that's it for today, and thank you all very much for your attention.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. And again, real quick, feel free to check out the Tec.nicum Online Academy. Again, because you're online here, you get the first dibs on what we have available. So just check that out. Other than that, yes, thank you so much for everyone, and stay safe.